Hello and welcome to this week's episodes of The Calling. Follow your spirit all the way in. I'm your host, Homaya. Join me in this journey of self-awareness, soul frequencies, and spiritual revelations. Let's fly. Hello. Hello and blessings to all of you beloved people with us today with another episode of the Calling podcast, and together with a full body shiver and a mix of excitement and elation, I am happy to be with Rebecca Campbell. Welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Oh my God, we had a moment to chat. I want to say a few words for those who do not still know Rebecca. If you invited me to share from my heart. So in my eyes, heart, when I'm connecting to your energy, to your wisdom, to what you bring here, I see a river, a shimmering river that spread wisdom and give guidance as it know exactly when it goes, where it goes, and how to go. And I know that for our mental mind, it's so easy to go around those how, where, what. But the river don't move because of there's a mental idea. It flows with awareness. So I'm grateful for your sage presence on the planet. And I'm grateful for this conversation and for you blessing us with your grace and Golden, the Great Gathering.
I can't wait to be there. I've never actually been to Portugal. I've always wanted to go, so it's perfect.
Oh my God, that means that it would be good to extend the visit.
The only thing that I have that I'm juggling are my kids, who are called Sunny and Goldie, and I call Goldie Golden. She introduces herself as, no, my name is Golden.
Wow. Oh, wow. Yeah, so that meeting and this conversation and you being in Golden feels to me as it was woven in the astral for quite a lot of time, and that there were sprinkles of guidance, like the shimmering light of the river that is flowing, to look, to feel, to connect, and that moment arrived. And this is so epic. So this specific Golden event is the Great Gathering, where we get to activate our energetic template as psychic, as mystics, as intuitive, and specifically to look at paradise consciousness, to activate paradise consciousness within us. One of the reasons that I approached you energetically, psychically, was because your latest creation was about a powerful transition, a rebirth, and completion, and a beginning. And I feel that many times when we're speaking about paradise, there is a knowing and a recognition of that which is benevolent. And simultaneously, there's a story, a narrative about limitations, about what is forbidden, about lack of being able to access that state. And very strongly, at least in my heart eyes, the entire topic of death and birth. And I know also in your book you were speaking a lot about the grief. And very much there's also this connection to detaching from paradise consciousness through grief and separation. However, the rebirth and the re-emerge of a greater truth, of a greater expansion, is not necessarily coming from that death. I would love to hear, when you hear that, when you hear the words paradise consciousness, when you hear them in the context of death and rebirth as an end and beginning, and when you hear it in the conscious of expansion, what is the music you hear?
So that last book I wrote took me forever. It was 7 years. It's called Your Soul Had a Dream, Your Life Is It. And I knew that was the title, but I had no idea what it meant. But I also really knew what it meant. And I think that's what that book holds. It begins with a mystical experience I had with the Great Mother in the waters of the earth. I saw the gateway, the path that all souls enter with our first breath and our last. The ecstasy and the agony of the human experience. Our grief is evidence of how much we love and how it's us denying and separating us off and seeing the contraction as negative and the expansion as the only positive that has made us so separate and severed from the grace that we seek. And I think that what is happening on the planet right now, specifically, particularly when we gather in groups of particularly sacred feminine and coherence, which is what we'll be doing at your event, what we're doing is we're remembering what is possible and realizing that we never got kicked out of the garden and that the temple has always been within. For me, I had that mystical experience with the Great Mother. I call it a Great Mother awakening. I went into trance. I went into song. I was singing in different languages that I didn't even know. It was very unexpected. And it completely changed me right down to my cells. But it took 7 years to integrate. It's be careful of the spontaneous mystical experiences or the quick awakenings, because often those are the ones that need the most integration and embodiment. And then I became a mum after that. And it was almost like I was experiencing in the body what I experienced in that mystical experience. And as I was pregnant, I've had 2 babies. I lost one in between. I really took it as this, like, I really wanted to observe the soul being knitted into form. And I had a couple of really incredible people come into my life who helped me see the process of birth as like being taught from the mystery school of nature. So that process of contraction, expansion, and like pleasure and pain, ecstasy and agony, all of that, which is like just so intertwined in the birthing process. Again, it was like I wrote that book literally while I had a baby growing within me. As I approached the gates to all the different stages of labor, it just kept on coming in. And then I would go back to those periods. And often it was when I was breastfeeding at night, like I would just hear the whispers come in. And books like the Tibetan book of, what's it called, of dying, and other ones like that, where it's like these great mysteries where it's like you can almost reach the threads of that are woven into life, but the moment you reach for them in the mystery, they just go like that.
Go
So,
through dimensions, no? They appear in another dimension
yeah.
and you just cannot, it cannot stay there.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that this period that we are living in, many of us are processing what has been unprocessed within our ancestry, in particular, the collective too, our childhoods, all of that. We really are, so many of us are, it is like being awakened and activated within us. And we're moving through so much. It's easy to get really overwhelmed by that and by the chaos of just looking around us right now, whether it's online or down the road within our communities. There is a lot of uprooting and separation and division and chaos. But this is also potentially nature's way, right? Where there is chaos before something new is born. And what I've been getting over and over again, like nature is my greatest teacher. And what I've been getting over and over again is that it is us thinking that we got kicked out of the garden. It's us thinking that like the sacred is not here at someplace else. And it's certainly not within. It's in some temple that we have to go to and do something in the external. Whereas really, it is each of our birthright. And we can intimately experience the sacred. And that the sacred is actually not special. It's the most natural thing in the world.
Completely present.
And I think nature is the quickest way for us to connect in with that. I don't know anyone who hasn't had what I'll call like an awe moment, looking at a flower, a sunset, a sunrise, the way that the light flickers or shines through water on the ocean. We've all experienced those moments. They are moments of union, where a moment of awe is really where you are both like feeling so connected with all of life, but also overwhelmed by the ineffable immensity of it. So it's like this macro and micro together. Yeah. And I think through connecting to nature, through returning to the garden, through connecting to the sacred feminine, like we can weave the sacred back in thread by thread.
Yeah. I feel that there's a lot of what I name spiritual misconceptions. And this is one of them, that there is a need to do a thing or separate yourself in order to reactivate and dwell in the sacred, as you call it, in God's presence, in paradise consciousness. And I also feel that there is this separation and the need to define something as good or bad that is the one that takes us away from paradise consciousness. I was sharing with you when we started, just a few moments before we started speaking, about this very clear and detailed, I would even say, templates and imprints that Grace gave me to be able to see how we are all a representation of nature and how there is constant continuity. And it is only the mind that wants to stop and examine and take a piece and separate it and try to figure it out. But there is a continuity. There's infinity in presence in nature. As the seed is created with all the vitamins and minerals exactly in the place on earth, with everything that is needed for it to carry its wisdom to ascend, to move into the power of growing, of overcoming, of expanding, of shape-shifting, of creating deeper and deeper aspects. The seed is one day becoming a flower, and there was just a continuity. The seed comes back again to become a fruit, and all that there was just was a yes, a constant yes, and a constant yes into the energy that wants to flow there.
Totally. Yeah. It reminds me of like what I was like learning about giving birth before I knew how to do it. And I know everyone's birth is completely different. But for me, I was connected with someone who's a dear friend of mine, a woman in her late 80s called Binny Dansby. And she taught me her process, which is the source process, is she does it through breath work generally, but also for women who are having babies, where you just are constantly breathing and opening and saying, yes, open, open. And while you're in labor, you're not necessarily saying out loud, But yeah, that's what my husband was saying to me through the birth. And that is what I was like saying to my cells in my heart through the birth. And the idea that it's like through the contractions, through the expansions, that we can open and expand more after every single one. Yeah.
Yeah. If
And
you,
that nature knows how to do it. Like, it's just like saying yes to it.
yeah, if you're able to see the contractions as an expansion already, if you yourself are not judging it of something that is painful or something that is against, or in nature, the fact that there is not leaves on the trees in winter doesn't mean that the tree is not prosperous at that moment,
Yeah.
that the tree doesn't grow or expand. My birth, not mine, the birth that I gave was, I feel like, a re-establishment process, because I cannot say that it was theory, what I knew before, but it could go until a certain extent. And then during the birth itself, and I feel like a shiver to even speak about it, knowing that who knows how many people will listen to that here now. During the birth itself, I could completely see that there were nothing. There were completely nothing. There's nothing. There was a moment during the birth. The entire birth happened, and I know you were also so tuned to water like me. So I created elixirs, and I want those amazing elixirs to be in the bath, and I'll be in the bath, and I'll give birth in the bath. But it somehow I can say no one took me seriously that I'm about to give birth. So the midwives didn't came. I remember the thought of calling the doula just passing here and me just saying, this is irrelevant anymore. Like I'm already in another place. And there was a certain moment that I woke up. I called my husband to wake up, told him it's happening, it's going. And he still didn't realize that this is what is happening. That we're giving, here we are, consciousness is passing through us into a human body. And oh my God. There was a certain moment where I stood in front of the mirror. I came out of the bath because no one wanted to open a bath. Like, it was really one journey. So I took myself into the bath because I knew that it's going to support me. I had the elixirs, and because I had no water coming down, I said to my husband, can you take the elixir and just throw it to the direction of the ocean and ask God to bring the water down? It was winter and there was no rain that winter. And suddenly it started raining after months that there was no rain. And when I came out of the water, I felt like I need to go out. My body told me. And I could I could feel there's a head. The head is coming out. I told him, you should ask the midwife, what should I do? And he called them and they didn't get it. And I said, the head is going out. And they said, don't push. I'm still not pushing. There's nothing to push. It's just it's happening. It just happened. And I just wanted to know now, like, position. What is the position? And I ask them, what is the position? What's the best? What am I going to do? Because he's coming. How am I going to hold him myself? And that was the only time that I screamed in the birth. I screamed, position. And I was in front of the mirror. And I looked at the mirror, and all I could see is that I had no face. There was no eyes, no mouth, no nose, nothing. There was cosmos here. I saw the infinite. I saw the infinite womb of creation. So it was just a black hole. And then after you go through an experience like that, There's no more questions. You are the answer. You become the answer. I never dared sharing that out loud.
Thank you for sharing.
I believe that it's not a unique experience. I believe that we all go through that. I just had the possibility to see it.
I think this is why that transition into motherhood is so complex, because on one hand, first of all, you've had the codes of creation moving through you, and you've been a portal for soul to be woven into matter. And at the very same time, it is so physical. I'm not just talking about the birth, just the whole thing. I remember postpartum for both babies, even the one I lost, same thing. Just being like I could reach the threads and codes of the universe. But the moment I tried to put them into words, like only poetry would do. Like I couldn't put them into words because it was like I could touch them, I could taste them, I could be one with them. But then the moment I tried to define it, it was like golden sand, like not in a negative way. It was just like that. And then at the very same time, you're having like maybe, I think it was like 2 hours sleep a night, or you're dealing with a lot of physical stuff, while also whether it's breastfeeding or whatever you're doing with your child, you're so tapped in at the very same time. And so it is this ultimate polarity of the human experience, I think. And you're so connected to everything on the planet, all of the pain, all of the joy, all of the love, all of the great, like all of it. You're so open to all of it. But the thing that really perplexed me was I knew that it wasn't about bouncing back and getting back to who I was, because it's like you lose yourself. But it's the opposite. The opposite's actually true. But the societal reflection or mirroring is, oh, I know it's challenging and amazing as well, but as if, oh, you'll eventually find yourself again. And I'm like, no, it's so not that. There's this third that is, you're not who you were. And you're like in this in between, but there's this third energy that you are stepping into that you can't possibly
Impossible.
imagine. Yeah. And I don't think we have language for that. And like, I understand why pre-patriarchal, it was all about the goddess, the woman as goddess. Like, how could she not be when that happens, when her whole body becomes a portal for a whole, like literally creation to happen?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Every car you drive, every room you enter, every pen you hold, everything. There was a mother there.
And this is the thing I remember as well, talking to my friend Amy Firth. She created the mystery school with me, which happened after my kids. And that's all about returning to the garden. It's about the codes and in nature, the mystery school of nature, how it is available to all of us to read. Like, it's the greatest book you could possibly read. And we both became mums at the same time. We're both god mums to each other's kids, first kid. And we remember saying over and over again, like, how is it possible that everyone has a mother? How is it possible? And it's like the most natural, it's the most normal thing in the world, because it's like everyone has a mother, and the most extraordinary all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel that I want to tap into the fact, I would even really say fact, that most of the healers, most of the light activators, the psychic, the spiritual leaders, and I'm not speaking about the spiritual leader who are standing on the stage. I mean, like those who pave the path are females. There's this knowing of that mystic inside of you. You know it even if you didn't give birth, because you were born with everything that is connected to it.
Yeah.
So we know this process of fruits and flowers. We know this process of creating fruits, of being fruitful. We know it as a flow. Versus when you are saying patriarchal or masculine, sometimes feels like it's a completely different experience where there's a death and there's an end and there's a beginning, and it's not a continuity. And you gave birth to boys.
A boy and a girl.
And a girl. And you feel that power. That inside of the prosperity, inside of abundance, inside of the whole, there is also the part that knows that there's an end to something. Like, still the feminine is creating, still the healer is creating, is bringing new consciousness. And part of it is also that is experiencing or being responsible of an end that not necessarily bring a birth. You see it, you feel it. How does it show up inside of you? Like, how do you feel? How do you move with it?
I think it's just all creation, isn't it? And you were saying something before about there are no more questions. And I agree with that. And also it's like the polarity of that is there are no questions because there are no answers, because it's all just, it's literally, it's the mystery. It's the mystery of creation itself. And then, yeah, the moment we try and define it, it's like you get stuck in it. Whereas if you just open to it, creation just keeps on creating. Yeah.
Everything.
We befriend the fertile void. We befriend those darker periods of our life, because it's that classic phrase of the tomb is also the womb. It's the same thing. It's just, it's not, there's a cycle to it. There's a law to it in a way, like there's codes to it, but it's not linear. Yeah.
Not linear. And I also see it many times, and it really helped me when I started seeing and experiencing myself like that, and also many of my clients, is if you're able to see yourself in this process as one of this creation in linear and beyond linear time, then when that thing that is shaking you to the bones, that thing that takes your identity away, that things that you are maybe even ashamed of or feel inside of you that this is a shadow experience or a death experience and so on, it is actually when your soul raised her hand and said to the universe, I'm going to take that paradigm. I'm going to take this life experience. I'm going to take this disease. I'm going to take this uncomfortability. I'm raising my hand and saying, I am willing to go down the hill because I know the light that I have inside of me will illuminate this place as well. This is how I see it. When I have clients that are speaking about a burnout or speaking about depression or speaking about, a place of really wanting to separate themselves from the world with whatever, whether it is a history or a story, it's like how much power actually you had at that moment that you said, I'm going to take depression. I'm going to take that depression and I'm going to go into this full experience. And I know that I have the power to rise, but the human cannot say that. The mind cannot say it. Takes me to another conversation that I had with another client of mine, where she felt that she's really feeling it's, she had a bankruptcy and she lost so many things in her life, and she couldn't be in that place of that too shall pass. She couldn't hold that too shall pass. And one of the things I remember that I shared with her, this is a window of opportunities that most likely would not come back in your life.
Mm.
And everything that you're sharing now, Rebecca, right? This sensation of those moments that is intangible and you want to grasp it and you cannot grasp it, but you can feel it and it is filling you up. And there's a restructuring inside of your system. that needs this level of fragility to create an alchemy, to create right? To create that alchemy. So that moment where you feel that there's an end, or you feel that is a precious moment that's soon going to close, because the wave going to continue. It's going to go up and down again. And that down going to close the door, and you might miss something so precious that you can only feel when you're there.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And I love this awareness to expand. Like, I'd love more and more people to feel comfortable in it. Feel that what I've managed to create in the dark night of my soul, although it was challenging and it wasn't an hour, those were years. My dark night of the soul took years, but what I created during that time is in the frequency of eternity. I remember when you were sharing about the book, how it was challenging also to come to life, like to be printed.
Yeah. Oh my God, literally. Yeah, all the black ink from the poetry pages bled, and oh, yeah, it was quite the initiation.
What do you see in initiation? What is your definition of initiation?
To initiate, obviously, is to embark on. I think initiation, when accepted, is it's like you say yes to something that is going to completely change you. Yeah.
And yes, sometimes you're saying to it yes here and now, and your entire body is saying that yes, like we said before, that yes. And there's sometimes the soul said yes.
Yeah, I think any period that we go through, like, fear comes up, our shadow comes up, it all comes up. So it doesn't mean that it's like we don't have resistance to it. That's actually part of it. Like the contract, expand, contract, expand. And then eventually there tends to come a moment where we realize that we can't do it. It's just like there is that moment of transition in birth where midwives and doulas are taught that the moment that the mother truly says, I cannot do this, they're like, oh, the baby's about to come. And I think that's such a great teaching because, yeah, it's not like I'm saying yes to this initiation, this hard period of that never happens. Eventually we might be like, I am just going to surrender here. I'm going to surrender to grace because I can't do this on my own. And then that's when the energy comes in that moves through us and moves us through it. It's like in that moment of surrender rather than just resistance. But the resistance comes up before that. Completely.
Yeah, I keep on saying, if you wouldn't know what is coming, you wouldn't resist. You resist it because there is a deep knowing inside of you that what is on the other side is completely different, but you know it. You know it. You've been there. You've seen it. You've signed up for it. If not, you wouldn't say. What would you resist? You just go.
Yeah.
You resist your own creation. And again, it's the mental that resists this creation. Because at that moment that you're speaking about, that, that the fruit is falling from the tree. The edge of, wow, I don't know, like sometimes when I work with my clients, I'm arriving to a point where it's like they're saying some things that I have no idea what is going to come. What can I say? How can I guide them? What would I say now? And that is equal to that moment that you're speaking of, where, okay, but then for it to be greater than you, then of course you don't know what is coming. Of course you don't know what to say. Of course you don't feel that you can do it. But you can do it in your new form. And that new form needs an infusion of divinity.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been wonderful.
Thank you for this conversation, for opening all of those aspects. I feel that as we were speaking, we created space. In the space between us, a space was created. I'm looking forward to see what are we going to birth?
I know. How exciting.
Yeah. Thank you. See you soon. Thank you for listening and being part of this great conversation. You will find all the relevant links in the show notes, as well as a link to a meditation for you to feel more connected to your spirit and aligned with your soul contract. Please, if this episode touched you, leave a review, like, and subscribe. Feel comfortable to share it with your friends, family, and colleagues, because everyone has a calling.